Now we're going to go to Barcelona to talk to Richard Fitzpatrick, an Irish journalist who lives and works from Barcelona. And in Barcelona, they are still recovering from the hiding Liverpool gave them in the Champions League semi-final. It was regarded as the worst humiliation that great club had ever endured. And at the weekend on Saturday night in Seville, Barcelona lost the Spanish Cup final 2-1 to Valencia. And of course, anyone who saw Valencia play Arsenal in the Europa League semi-final would not have been too impressed. Valencia, a pretty ordinary team, and it would have been a major surprise for Barcelona to lose to them. Obviously, not all is bleak, because Barcelona won the Spanish league and they won it handsomely. Now, Richard, thank you for joining us on the stand. Let's just look at the Saturday night game. Valencia, obviously, they had a bit of a surge at the end of the Spanish league. They've qualified for the Champions League from the Spanish league for next season, but anyone seeing them against Arsenal over two legs would think not a great team at all, and would have expected Barcelona and Messi to take care of them. How deep now is the crisis in Barcelona Football Club?
It's very deep because of this defeat to Liverpool, which weighs large with the city, with the club's fans. And now those symptoms which were on display at Anfield in that 4-0 defeat resurfaced in the final loss to Valencia. Valencia are the fourth biggest club in Spain. They're not minnows, but you would, as you suggest, expect Barcelona to beat them. They were a banana skin waiting to happen. The two teams played twice before the season and they drew. They're a tight ship. They're a counter-attacking team, and they caught Barca on the hop early in the game. They scored two early goals to go 2-0 ahead, and Barca couldn't mount a comeback. They got a goal back, all right, but they lost 2-1. So there's a huge discussion and debate now in the city about where this Barca project is going. Everybody's in the firing line except Messi. The coach, obviously, his head is on the block. The sporting director, Pep Segura, there's a lot of discussion about his signatures, which haven't worked out. So there's huge turmoil, possibly exaggerated because they have the team that has won a league title 19 points ahead of their big rivals, Real Madrid, and
yes,
they won the league title last season as well. But everything is coloured by that defeat to Liverpool, and now that's added to by this embarrassing defeat to Valencia.
Yes, and Ernesto Valverde is the coach. I think it was his first season in charge, was it, Richard? And he looks second. Sorry, he looks possibly to be doomed. And one of the factors in the equation or in the analysis is the failure of Felipe Coutinho, who cost 120 million plus 40 million of add-ons when he was bought from Liverpool. Big loss to Liverpool, a hugely respected player, Brazilian. He did really well at Liverpool, but at Barcelona he has been deemed to be a failure, which I must say myself, it was not too unpredictable. I thought it would be tough for him to find, if you like, a role in that team alongside Suarez and Messi. It hasn't worked out at all for Coutinho, has it?
No, it hasn't. You mentioned Ernesto Valverde at the top. We might return to him because his situation is interesting.
Tell us about it, yeah.
Maybe first address Valverde and then go on to Coutinho. So Valverde came into the job 2 years ago. he walked into the eye of a storm. You'll remember Neymar was filched by Paris
Yes.
Saint-Germain that summer. So the club had lost, their great Brazilian star, the successor to Messi. It was a very, very humiliating exit for Barca. One of the directors at the club had said a couple of weeks before he left that he was 200% sure he would be staying at the club. They had lost the league title that season to Real Madrid. Real Madrid thrashed them in that summer's Super Cup final by 5-1. Piqué said after the game that it was the first time in a decade that he'd been at the club that he felt Real Madrid were stronger. And Messi hadn't signed a contract renewal. This was weighing very heavily, as you can imagine,
Yes.
with all of Barca's fans. So Valverde walked into that situation and he steadied the ship and went on. They won the league title with a 17-point margin from Real Madrid. So he did well, but they had that disastrous exit to Roma in the Champions League, and of very similar circumstances again this season. He goes and wins the league title, but another embarrassing exit from the Champions League, Liverpool this time. So his situation could go either way. The president has been very firm in backing him over the last week, and again after the Copa del Rey final defeat to Valencia on Saturday, he came out again and backed him. But the board is having an emergency meeting tomorrow, so that obviously he'll be number one on the discussion items at that meeting. So it remains to be seen what happens with him. The club isn't known traditionally for sacking its managers. It's not trigger happy, like say, for example, Real Madrid.
Yes.
Last time it fired a manager was back in 2003 when they sacked Louis van Gaal. And secondly, there isn't an obvious successor there. The Barca they try to bring in somebody who fits the style of the club. They had gone out for Ernesto Valverde twice beforehand and they couldn't get him. He was somebody they wanted to get in. The names in the hat or that are being mentioned as coming in would be Ronald Koeman. He's had a long career in management, not exactly glittering.
Had a glittering career at Barca too, as a player.
Amazing football career, yeah, with Barca predominantly. But as a manager, he's had domestic successes in Holland and he won a Copa del Rey with Valencia here.
And he's managing the Dutch national team at the moment.
Exactly.
And has done a very good job there.
Sorry, he's doing a good job there.
He's done a very good job with the Dutch national team, yes.
He has, but with an exceptional panel. But he wouldn't have set the world alight at Everton. But so he's a front runner. And there's the question whether he'd walk out on that Netherlands team, as you suggested. They'll have a very good chance in the Euro 2020 finals. And there aren't any other obvious names. Ajax's coach is being mentioned, but there's not an obvious successor. So that's a difficult situation for the club to address. The second thing is Coutinho. You mentioned about Coutinho. He's been a lightning rod for the disaffection with Barca's fans, because he's the club's most expensive signing, like you say, 160 million, including add-ons. But he hasn't delivered. He started well last season. He came in mid-season, did very well for that 6 months. But he got injured early this season and has come back and hasn't been performing. It's an obvious crisis of confidence. He doesn't have the confidence to cut it under such severe pressure at the club. He's getting whistled at during every game by the Barca fans.
I'm reading a comment in one of the Barcelona newspapers yesterday, AS. They do player ratings and assessments, and here's what they say about Coutinho's performance at Anfield. He has signed his death sentence as a Barcelona player. He does not deserve to continue wearing the shirt. His performance was one of indolence, unbefitting a player of his level. He has talent, but not the character to play for such a big team. Goodbye. End of quote. So they don't mess around there, do they?
No, that's his death sentence. They're done and dusted. Like you mentioned earlier, a big problem with him was he didn't have an obvious position on the team.
Yes,
he was bought to replace Iniesta, but he's not a midfielder. His position is as a number 10, but obviously Barca have Messi, so
yes.
He's been floating around there without an obvious place to play on the team. He's been played where Neymar used to play up front, but it's not working out. And the big thing is that crisis of confidence with him. He looks like a lost child at the moment.
Yeah, now the question of Lionel Messi, the greatest player probably we've seen in the history of the game. He's had a great season on the face of it. But to my eye, whenever I see them playing, and that includes 2 games against Manchester United, and also the 2 games against Liverpool, I mean, he's still sensational. But he doesn't, he drifts around a game. He can be quiet for long periods, and then when they most need him, he is generally the person who explodes into life and scores these incredible goals, including set pieces and that. Is there a feeling that, the industry and the sort of the legs, if you like, that he had aren't there anymore?
No. I mean, if you talk to any expert in Spanish football in the country, he just continues to astound people.
I mean, he's out of this world, Richard. There's no question about that.
He scored his 600 career goal with Barca against Liverpool. He's won his 6th Golden Boot award for the top scorer in Europe again this season.
Yes,
he topped La Liga's assist table as well this season. He was joint top assist provider.
Right.
So he's doing 2 jobs at the moment. There was a very interesting statistic came out a few weeks ago about comparing himself and Ronaldo, how Benzema and Dybala at Juventus, how their goal scoring is better without Ronaldo, whereas at Barca, Neymar and Suarez, their goal scoring record is better with Messi.
Yes.
He's just incredible. Even in that defeat to Valencia on Saturday night, he was the guy who scored their goal. He nearly scored. He hit the woodwork with an incredible effort. He broke through the defence. It could have been one of the greatest cup final goals ever. He's the go-to guy for the club.
Of course.
The problem is he doesn't have the supporting cast. If you look at that team that won the triple, that Barca team that won the triple in 2015, that beat Juventus in the Champions League final that season, you've got Rakitic, Busquets, Suarez, and they're all 4 years older.
Yes.
They're not the players they were, and they're without Neymar. They've got Coutinho who isn't working out. That's where the problem lies in his sporting cast, but you couldn't fault him. He gets better and better.
Yes. Now, do they have the money? I mean, there's going to be a great talent hunt in Europe this year because Real Madrid are in a pretty bad place as well. They finished so far behind Barcelona in the league. They got knocked out of the Champions League by Ajax, which, 4-1 at home. And Zidane is back. They need players clearly. Gareth Bale is just being sort of ostracized really on a massive contract. But they're going to be hunting players. Barca are going to be hunting players as well. But Bayern Munich, another big club that will be looking, as will PSG, and of course the Premier League clubs. There isn't that much talent out there, Richard, and the prices are, to put it mildly, inflationary, highly inflationary. Have Barca got, as a club, the the resources that Madrid appear to have. In other words, Madrid could go out and pay 200 million for Mbappe. I think they might actually. Do Barca have that kind of heft, if you like, financially?
Yeah, they're talking here that they need shock therapy. They need to shake up that dressing room and get rid of a few of those heavyweights and buy in that talent. They won't have the kind of money to spend that Real Madrid have spent, but they have three key signings in mind. One they've already made in Frankie de Jong.
Yes,
got him in Ajax. They've also, this is with a long view. They're also trying to get in Matthijs de Ligt as he's still only 19. He's Ajax's captain. He would be the backbone of the team for a decade or more.
Yes,
but that's not really that position. Central defense isn't a huge urgency because they have Gerard Piqué, who has another couple of years. He's had a really good season, and Clement Lenglet has played very well. The other guy then is Antoine Griezmann, whose release clause drops to 120 million. He said he's leaving Atletico Madrid. His release clause, drops in July to 120 million. So he's not that kind of the same financial bracket as an Mbappe or Neymar.
Right.
But he's tremendous value at that 120 million. So he would be the ideal signing for the club, because they need somebody to compete with Suarez for that centre forward position. Also, he could play on the wing, or so he could play in several positions. He's just a genuine world class player. But like you said, there's a lot of these clubs, all those big clubs you mentioned,
yes,
are in front for these kind of players. So it would be extraordinary if they got both of those guys, De Ligt and Griezmann, given the odds with it being such a competitive marketplace. But that's definitely what they have in their sights, is getting those two big players in.
Yeah, I can tell you, Richard, from my own view, I think Griezmann is a fabulous player, but he's not an orthodox centre forward, and he might find himself in areas of the pitch where Messi would be drifting into as well, a little bit like the Coutinho situation. But that's another day's conversation.